bills, which will become an act once the President gives her assent to it, cleared the Parliament test after the Rajya Sabha passed it yesterday. Now, among the several changes which will come into force, one is regarding death due to medical negligence. Now, previously, anyone who was found to have caused accidental death could be sent to 2 years in prison. Now, under the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, punishment for death by negligence is 5 years in jail, and it could extend up to 10 years in cases where the person at fault flees from the accident spot or fails to report the incident to the cops. But, if a doctor or a medical practitioner commits a crime by accident, the punishment he or she will get is much, much less. An amendment was brought to the bill before it was reintroduced in Parliament by Home Minister Amit Shah. Now, as per the new clause, death due to negligence of doctors will not be treated the same as death due to negligence caused by a common man. So basically, if you and I make a mistake which leads to someone's death, up to 5 years jail term awaits us. But if a doctor makes the same mistake, the maximum sentence is 2 years in prison. That too, if negligence is proven. Why this bias? Well, because as per the new law, a surgeon performs operation in good faith and not intending to cause the patient's death, and hence the doctor has not committed any offence. The government essentially is granting immunity to those in the medical profession after the IMA wrote a letter to the Prime Minister last year saying it is necessary to provide a safe environment for doctors to practice their profession. According to the medical body, that can only happen when doctors are excluded from criminal liability. Now, who are we to argue? Doctors are like gods, but they are no gods. Even they make mistakes, or they can be helpless sometimes. But what about patients and their families? They come to clinics and hospitals with the hope of getting treated. How would they feel when a single mistake by the person that they have put their trust in kills someone they love? Reports are saying that as many as 5.25 million cases of medical negligence have been reported in India, and this is a number every year. That is 52 lakh incidents, injuries or deaths due to mistakes by doctors. Between 2018 and 2020, in the space of 3 years, there were 552 deaths due to medical negligence. 552, ladies and gentlemen. It's a figure that is high for a country like India, which prides itself in having the best healthcare facilities. Though let me put it out very clearly, this isn't just an India story. 138 million patients face harm due to mistake or negligence by doctors every year, and this we are talking about is in countries with medium and low economic status. The situation, by the way, is no better in developed nations. 1 out of every 10 patients is the victim of some kind of medical mistake. Despite all of this, despite all the data, doctors are literally immune to proceedings against them. As far as India is concerned, the burden of proof of negligence lies with the patient. He or she needs to prove with foolproof evidence that the mistake by the doctor actually led to the harm. Let us try and understand the subject a little better, and let's try and get both sides of the story in. Dr. Sanjeev Bagai is chairperson of the Nephron Clinic, joining us on the broadcast. Ashutosh Nagar is advocate on record at the Supreme Court. Dr. Satish Rath is a doctor scientist joining us at the broadcast. And Rajpal Singh is someone we've had on the show before. He's someone who has lost a relative to medical negligence. So thank you, all of you, for joining us on the broadcast. Dr. Bagai, you are a regular guest here on Mirror Now. Help our viewers understand what we should make of the new bill. An obvious question someone like me will ask, why should doctors be given preferential treatment? If the punishment for death due to negligence is 5 years for the Aam Aadmi, why should it be 2 years for doctors? After all, by the end of it, someone has been killed, someone has died.
Good evening. Good evening to everyone on panel and all the viewers. So I want to give both sides of the story and then give what my individual view is. Doctors as a medical professional perhaps work under the most stressful environment, medically, physically, psychologically, every which way. And we are facing life and death every day, every second. We take decisions which are split-second decisions. And I want to say this from the bottom of my heart, that no registered medical practitioner will ever do any harm intentionally. Our aim is always to help, cure, and heal patients, reach out to the families as much as possible. What is important to understand is that so far what was happening is that a lot of untoward incidents, including harassment, including police cases, including assault on doctors, doctor bashing, indeed destroying of medical infrastructure by irritant relatives. It's important that in a complex situation where a patient comes in critically, sometimes the patient cannot be saved or cannot be healed, so to say. I think we need a very rational middle path. Doctors must come under the gamut so that there is no medical negligence. That's a given. I completely agree with that. The law should be uniform for all professionals. I given that. But whether it's 2 years or 5 years, I will not debate that. But the issue is medical negligence is a willful default of an intentional harm that has to be proven. I don't want doctors to work under any fear. Doctors must never work under any favor either. There are young medical doctors who work relentlessly for 24 hours, 36 hours, round the clock. They face the brunt in the emergency room or in the casualty. There should not be any fear, especially the young ladies as resident doctors or the young male RMOs. But the medical professional must be under review so that we give three things: honest medical practice, transparent medical practice, which is ethical, and evidence-based medicine. We must follow science. Any deviation from this, the doctor must be held liable.
राजपाल जी, आपने देखा कि जो नया बिल है वो क्या बोल रहा है? कह रहा है मेडिकल प्रोफेशनल्स को आप क्रिमिनल लायबिलिटी से मुक्त करिए, वो क्रिमिनल्स नहीं है। आप जब हमारे शो में आए थे तो हमने कुछ ऐसे डॉक्टर्स की बात की थी जो एक्चुअली क्रिमिनल्स ही थे, क्योंकि उनको पता था कि उनके पास वो स्किल सेट नहीं है जो उनके पेशेंट्स को जरूरत है, और उनमें से आपके भी एक रिलेटिव थे, और उनको ले जाया गया, उल्टी सीधी कोई सर्जरी की गई, जिसके बाद आपके जो रिलेटिव हैं उनकी डेथ हो गई। तो जब आप इस बिल को देखते हैं और देखते हैं कि एज कंपेयर टू दी आम आदमी मेडिकल प्रोफेशनल्स यानी डॉक्टर्स को इम्यूनिटी दी जा रही है, तो आप क्या सोचते हैं समवन जो भुक्तभोगी हैं?
इसकी समीक्षा की आवश्यकता है और इस पर समीक्षा होनी चाहिए। ये बिल, मैं इसको ठीक नहीं मानता। किसी की जिम्मेवारी से उसको मुक्त करना, उसकी लापरवाही को लाइसेंस देना किसी भी कानून में ये ठीक नहीं है। और हमारे देश के यशस्वी प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी ने हमेशा लोगों को सहयोग दिया है, लोगों की भावनाओं की कद्र की है, और मैं उनसे यही कहना चाहता हूं। आवाज मेरे को नहीं आ रही? हेलो,
बोलते रहिए, मुझे आ रही है।
हेलो, मैं यही कहना चाहता हूं कि इस बिल की समीक्षा की आवश्यकता है और ये कानून उल्टा कड़ा होना चाहिए। जिनको ये मालूम है कि जिसको भगवान मानते हैं डॉक्टर्स को, और डॉक्टर ही कसाई का स्वरूप ले लेगा, तो इस देश में कानून और मर्यादा रह नहीं पाएगी।
राजपाल जी, आप हमारे व्यूअर्स को थोड़ा कॉन्टेक्स्ट दीजिए कि आप ये क्यों बोल रहे हैं।
मांग करता हूं कि इसकी समीक्षा की जाए। मैं इसलिए बोल रहा हूं, मेरा बेटा भी डॉक्टर है, मेरी बिटिया भी डॉक्टर है, और मैंने अपने भाई को खोया है एक ऐसे डॉक्टर के हाथों जो डॉक्टर के रूप में कसाई का व्यक्ति था, नीरज अग्रवाल, जो ग्रेटर कैलाश पार्ट 1 के अंदर नर्सिंग होम चलाता था, और उसने मेरे भाई को ही नहीं और 20 लोगों को मारा है, जिसमें से 12 केस ऑलरेडी उनके खिलाफ रजिस्टर्ड हैं। लेकिन इस तरह के अगर कानून आएंगे तो लोगों को एक और रास्ता मिल जाएगा बचने का। इसलिए मैं मेडिकल काउंसिल के सभी अपने माननीय डॉक्टरों से भी आग्रह करता हूं कि गलत काम की आप भी पैरवी ना करें, और कानून हमेशा लोगों की भलाई के लिए बनाए जाते हैं। लोगों की समीक्षा इसमें होनी चाहिए। उसका एकमात्र ये कारण है कि डॉक्टर को भगवान का दर्जा समाज ने दिया है, और डॉक्टर ही वैसी हो जाएंगे तो लोग किसकी तरफ आश्रित होकर देखेंगे।
ठीक है Dr. Rath, would you want to respond to what someone goes through when you have lost a loved one because of medical negligence? In his case, it was not even medical negligence; it was far worse.
Absolutely. So,
and at the hands of a qualified doctor.
Yeah, we have to look at two cases. So, I mean, two sides. Patients have their right. If they feel that, there is a negligent practice, I think what has been happening is there is a delay in, getting the, let's say, diagnosis, the medical board's, let's say, results, for which, I think, patient feel that, okay, there is justice delayed, is justice denied. On the other side, what Dr. Sanjay also said is, doctors actually work. It is very, very rare to find any doctor trying to willfully cause harm to a patient. So there can be two acts, what is act of commission and act of omission. If, a doctor is within the BJR is able to omit something and then that has been proven, it has got, law to, let's say, get actually punished. Same way, let's say, if willfully somebody is committing, there is a law that, they are going to be punished. But, here we need to find out something very, very common is like a road traffic accident by a car or something, that can be solved by a traffic police. But let's say aircraft, let's say crash, or let's say there is a defense, let's say failure at our, defense systems, or there is an AI failure. These are highly complex systems. If I give you an example, so normal people think that, if you build a good body as well as, you're going to gym, you're going to survive. But, we have been getting that, all the actors and other things, who are going to gym are dying out of heart attack. What we think is like my neighbor, let's say, got better, or my son got better, or my, let's say, relative got better, I should be also behaving like this. It is very, very important to understand that what we understand from medical science is medicine science is the most complex science in the world. It is the inspiration for AI, it is inspiration for defense, being having filed a lot of patents. So when we say that part is, because my neighbor survived from COVID, but, my brother actually died out of COVID. That doesn't mean that, my brother was actually neglected. But very important is there should be a digital portal so that, patients should have the right to report the problem. It should go to a digital board or let's say a medical board. What is a very important part in this, new law bill is there is a lot of focus on digital forensics. Same way what we call in healthcare system is called an EMR, because everything is decided based on the documentation. So EMR has to be mandatory, interoperability has to be mandatory, it has to be trained to doctors. Whenever, let's say a file is complained from the, patient, it should go to the board. There should be a time-bound investigation based on digital forensics, and decisions should be given. If the medical board finds, which is a very complex thing, that yes, there is a willful, let's say, activity by the doctor, he should be punished. Patients have got their right. In the same way, I think if they find that no, this is actually appearing as a negligence, but actually this is not a negligence. This is a different disease. That's how this behaved like this. Then the doctor should be also feeling that I did my duty, but this patient behaved in a different way. And that's why, I could not survive it. So what Dr. Sanjay Bagai said, I also feel very personally. I also belong to family of doctors. When doctors work, they give their life. There is a lot of stress, what they're working. We have very less doctors in this environment. So access to care is going to be, let's say, very, very defensive. What is happening in US is, when a patient comes, they check for their insurance and they don't delay the treatment. So it is a balancing act, what has to happen.
Okay, Dr. Rath, but the fact is there's a reason why I got Rajpal ji into this conversation. It's because the doctor he had to deal with, Dr. Agarwal, there were multiple complaints in the police and in the medical board of Delhi against him. And yet he was there running a shop that was essentially butchering people. So I'm saying, because all doctors get this degree of immunity, someone like a Dr. Agarwal gets immunity as well, or Ashutosh Nagar will someone like a Dr. Nagar be treated differently from a doctor who has lost a patient? because, okay, of negligence, but one that wasn't deliberate.
Shreya, if you just want to allow me to
hit the
intervene.
nail on the head right now. If it's intentional, if the doctor is intentionally causing harm or danger, where there are multiple complaints against that particular doctor, and he still knows that he's putting the patient at risk with that practice, then certainly it can be considered to be culpable homicide as well. However, we need to understand the current new law is at par with the previous law itself. The new section 106 is actually equivalent to the previous section 304A of the IPC. So there is actually no change as such which has been made to this particular aspect. Actually, Dr. Bagai has rightly said that there is a lot of pressure on the doctors at large. So one or two instances or small instances cannot be the basis to increase the amount of penalty or the imprisonment which can be imposed on a particular doctor. If we can say the standard of care of a doctor is high, and therefore it is also important the standard to prove the negligence is also very, very high. So certainly the doctors really need to be given that kind of protection. Also noting that the relatives of the patients can be very emotional at the time when such an incident happens. They can put additional amount of pressure on the police to take action. So therefore, it is important to add an additional level of protection for the doctors in the code itself.
All right, Ashutosh Nagar, we leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much. This was a short chat. Dr. Bagai, thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Rath, good to have you on the show. And Rajpalji, thank you for getting us the voice of people who have actually suffered because of medical negligence and much more. In his case, it was much, much more. It was not just medical negligence. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Thank you very much indeed. Let's shift our focus now to some